Let's go ahead and move on to 15 and 16 down here. Now, these look pretty straightforward. You got the nose of the aircraft, the cowl. You got these D31 and D34 parts that go right here. But you've also got these little pieces. Oh, hey, look, there's a spider. You've also got these little pieces here that, if you look down here, obviously form some sort of backing for the exhaust when they go in later. Okay, that's great, but these aren't numbered at all. So what do? Well, looking around the parts trees, these pieces right here look promising. I mean, they're not anywhere near as deep, but they're kind of in the same realm, I think. So we're going to use these, see how they go. Okay, so we've got what looks like a piece here, and this piece here. So let's see how they line up, right? All right, we got fuselage half A1, or sorry, A2. This piece, let's drop it in there and see. Hey, look at that. Yep, it does provide a good footing there for the exhaust when it's going to go in. As you can see, the exhaust stacks here definitely have a nice clean cut line. And that does look like it will fit that just about right when it comes time to go in. I'm just going to lay a nice little line along the main edges here. Let's give this something nice to bite into. I'd rather not get fingerprints, even if it's on the inside. Now we're at it. Let's get D31 and D34 going. I'm going to go ahead and grab this guy. That actually fits up pretty well right there, doesn't it? And do a little bit of micro adjustment once the solvent does its thing. So there we go. Cowl bulges done. Now, looking back to the inside of the fuselage, we've got another never-ending procession of photo etch and resin and acetate. Oh boy. Thankfully, they give you a tiny little picture here of how this is all supposed to come out. So let's go ahead and knock that out. Why not, right? So we've cut off piece 10. As you can see, it goes right here, which makes me a little bit worried because we've got to deal with the rest of the cockpit, which is going to go somewhere about like this. So I'm going to just make sure it stays above that line. I hope that's good enough. Now, why am I putting this high up here? Well, A, I don't necessarily trust the placement all that much here because, you know, you've got the shelf over here, vague placement. You've got this line that comes down You know, you look on the instructions, and that line and this piece down, or this little line down here, are practically touching. I honestly don't know who to believe, so I'm just going to put it there and hope that it doesn't interfere with what is, I'm pretty sure, the photo etch spacer line there. So next up, step 18. Now, step 18 looks pretty basic. I mean, it's the starboard side of the cockpit. You've got bulkheads, you've got a few photo etch pieces that go in here and there. No big deal. But I also think step 18 is really emblematic of a frustration that's been growing on me over the course of this build. And that is the sort of lack of reality reflected in these instructions. So just for example, C19 looks nothing like the real C19. I mean, the upper curve is significantly larger than this sort of maybe half to slightly less than half of the piece. I mean, here it's a full, I would say 2/3, easy. You know, it thinks that it doesn't really help with alignment when it looks like there's just a little kink up top. No, it's a, you know, it's a big bend. There are actually two kind of bends going on in there. Anyway, I glued C19 in earlier just to make sure that the tube frame of the cockpit all lines up properly. Now, it gets better from there too. So you've got D30 with this little headrest type contour going on, right? Nope, blank piece. So why even show this in the first place? I'm not sure. Okay, well maybe, you know, photo etch piece 2 here, it's got these little rivet details, great, right? You know, add a little bit of spice to the blank piece of plastic. Nope, it's blank too. Honestly, I can't figure out for the life of me the logic behind this. You know, I get instructions don't always match reality perfectly. You know, some brands have a reputation for absolutely shitty instructions, but I've never encountered one that adds detail in the instructions that's not actually there on the parts. You know, it doesn't really impact anything aside from perception, but it's one of those where you look at this and you get some expectations going, and then you look at the parts and the disappointment hits of, oh, this part looked, you know, not bad, but now it's just blank plastic. So anyway, let's suck up that frustration and get to making these pieces come together. So I accidentally left the camera off while getting the last of the cockpit installed, but here we go. So the cockpit is now in the fuselage. We've got, you know, the front is tacked down pretty good with liquid solvent. As you can see, this is the kind of join that it's not bad at all, but it would definitely take some sanding and maybe a little bit of putty just to smooth out and make disappear. Now the cockpit itself, I'm almost certain there's some user error going on in here somewhere, but at the same time, there's a total lack of positive location all throughout this, and it's one of those where you have to bring together a couple different elements all at the same time. So D30 back here, this rear bulkhead piece, C19, which comes in down here. This one's probably the easiest to lock in. We've got the instrument panel up here, and of course the overall cockpit assembly in here. Now when I went to install these the first time, let's see if we can zoom in, this will make it easier to navigate. So when I went to install these the first time, these tube frames on the Hurricane are supposed to line up with these shelves. Great, right? Only they were too wide, so I had to come in and shave some of those shelves away. Now, you know, it still managed to fit for the most part. You know, if you look back in here, this is some of the nastiness on display. This bulkhead did not really want to stay where it needed to go. The MEK and the solvent was, something about this plastic just, it does not lock in quite the way it should. So that leads to some additional slop in the installation process. And then the instrument panel, as you can see, you know, right down there in the, look at the corners, it's riding right on the tube frame. This presents some slight headaches in that, you know, the tube frame down here wants to go up a little bit more, but it has pretty much no chance to do so because of where the instrument panel is. And again, the instrument panel is installed as you can see in there, it's just a piece of photo etch and acetate. That is it. Again, would have been nice to maybe have some way to install that to the tube frame or something like that beforehand. However, you know, here we are. The cockpit is installed for better or worse. Even, you know, with likely user error and impatience aside, something that is greatly frustrating me about this is this cockpit is one that is going to be a nightmare to paint and detail and then install, because it's asking literally that you slop, you know, solvent cement pretty much everywhere that things touch other things. And even then, as you can see here, you know, it's having some pulling away fun because this plastic is not the quickest to cure once it's been hit with Tamiya Extra Thin or MEK. So with that, we're going to go ahead and we are going to close up the rest of the fuselage. Now, to get the fuselage properly glued together, I'm going to use the touch and flow. My secret weapon for getting this thing loaded is a snot sucker designed for infants. Our kids are no longer infants, so this thing is not missed in any way, shape, or form. But it draws, you know, a nice, decent little amount of MEK into it, into the touch and flow. Shove that aside. So I'm going to start along the back side here. This is a pretty easy tool to use. A lot of people are terrified of it. I'm going a bit heavy with it here, but basically you just get the bead going and then draw along the line. Voila. Hold that for a second. Again, this plastic takes quite a while to really properly set up with solvent cement doing its thing. Wish it went faster, is what it is. I'll just have to sit here and hold this fucker with pliers. And we're still getting slight separation. Fuck. Come on. See, the problem with this is this takes a not insignificant amount of pressure. And we've got to sit here and wait. You know, tape is not going to hold this. Self-locking tweezers are not going to hold this. This takes hand pressure. You can see some fun things going on with ligaments in the hand here. Ligaments and tendons, all that good bullshit. While we wait for this thing to figure out that it needs to just end up and fucking solidify. So here we are with the fuselage glued together. Looks like a hurricane. Alright, so now that the fuselage is together, let's see where we go next. Oh boy. Okay, time to move into the wings. So as you can see here, the wings have a couple things going on. They've got these landing light installations that go deep into the wings. I'm sure they won't cause any problems with the wings going together. We've got the lenses there. You've got the nav lights and lenses going here. Obviously the 20mm cannons going into the wings. You've also got right here that giant thick piece of resin that is the main gear bay that goes into this underside piece. Really looking forward to shaving off this pour block. Now, this is where it gets funny. Okay. First of all, I'm not sure about this sort of install top and bottom and then just glue them to this piece. To me, that seems extremely dicey. I feel like there's going to have to be, if nothing else, an alignment aid of some kind going on there. If not, you know, much more care taken towards the install. However, you know, you figure, okay, what's next? What is step 24? It's probably installing these wings to this piece, right? Well, nope. The wings here are magically already all together, and then you just install them to the fuselage. What the fuck? I mean, I've been ragging on these instructions pretty much since I started this build, all the way back to step 2, and it just keeps, the hits just keep on rolling. Yeah, I'm kind of shocked that they haven't thought through maybe a little bit more how to manage this tricky installation of a 5-part wing with a giant piece of resin that is almost guaranteed going to interfere with the fuselage and with the underside of the cockpit, which already hangs down beneath the level of the wing root. I mean, just here, you know, you fit this thing in here and it's already this thick. Oh, and to add insult to injury, it doesn't even fit all that well in here because it's a little tiny bit too wide to really clear that little tab fit there. And then it's, you know, sticking up over here. Anyway, you have this. You gotta put this down here. Wow, look at that. Dear God. Okay. Anyway, that is for the next installment. Okay, so now that we have the fuselage together, the next step is to move on to the wings and this lower section. Now, I've been doing some fun resin removal of the main gear bay. I know it looks nasty right now. My Dremel ran out of batteries trying to take this down. As you can see, it's kind of poked through here and there. Mainly because I'm doing this a bit rushed. Honestly, I don't give two rats ass what the main gear bay looks like as long as it supports, you know, the main gear and actually lets this thing sit on its feet. I'm more worried, to be honest, about clearing the underside of the cockpit. But while I'm waiting for the batteries to recharge, I've got my handy saw here, which is fucking useless on this, but is great for removing the exhaust pour stubs. So the exhausts are ready to go, and let's go ahead and get those bastards glued in. With these, thankfully, I can finally move past having to put this stuff into a bottle cap because they've got their own recesses to sit in. So there we go, one exhaust. Voila. Now one other thing that I've done is gone ahead and shaved down, as you can see here, the sides of the gear bay a little bit. Why? So it'll fit in here. You can see it's got these alignment tabs. Before it was just too wide. Now it fits pretty nicely.